I'm Reverend Trudy Robinson, and I am from the First United Methodist Church of San Diego, and I am very excited to begin conversations with this man who is sitting with me. I would like to introduce to you Dr. Karl Martin. He is a professor of American culture by vocation. He's retired from Point Loma Nazarene University of San Diego, and he has agreed to have a series of conversation with us. And this is what we're calling it. It is the landscape of the white church and the American nation. And I'm so very glad to have somebody who has studied this for most of your career, stumbled upon it perhaps, but you've done some deep dives into this, and this is important information. I know that many people are very uncomfortable with politics in the church. But the reality is they are already here. Politics is already in the church. And we need to be able to recognize it and to understand it and to hear what it's saying about God and about ourselves and about the hopes of God. And so that's what this is all about.
Good.
Did I get that about right?
Yeah, I'm happy.
Good.
I'm happy with that.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you're here. Thank you.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
There will be a series of conversations. We'll be talking. You'll be talking with Reverend Dr. Hannah Kaw and Reverend Dr. Brittany Juliet Hanlon. And I'm sure we're going to have a lot of fun, and it'll hurt our heart in some way.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you have joined us. Thank you. I'm glad to be back with you, Karl. Thank you. So far, the conversation has been just amazing and so very helpful.
Good.
You know, for me, this whole idea, the whole concept is relatively new to me. But as you start naming what American exceptionalism is and what Christian nationalism kind of looks like, I'm aware more deeply in it's always been with me, and because it's new information, I'm like a new convert. I kind of we need to tell everybody this, you know.
Absolutely.
And I do that, I think, because it's personal to me, and I wonder, is this personal for you as well?
Goodness. It is so personal. Let's see. I think that partly it is, partly it is this, that I'm aware that I'm in a congregation, most congregations I've ever been a part of, I know more about American culture and American cultural history than most of my congregants. And there's nothing special about that. If I were a biochemist, I'd know more about biochemistry than my parishioners. But the fact is that I have made American culture my life's work. Trying to understand American culture and talk about it my life's work means that I'm very aware.
Right.
And so I come into worship very aware.
Yeah.
And of these issues, and again trying to make sure that the highest calling of my life is my discipleship to Jesus.
Yeah.
And recognizing the temptation that I feel when I hear a public figure, a politician or an entertainer, whoever, who articulates a vision of America that deeply resonates with me, I know how tempting it is for me to kind of make that sacred, to kind of Christianize that.
Right.
And then to try to take a step back has been very important for me to say, okay, that's not where your hope lies.
Right.
Your hope doesn't lie in that vision of America. Your hope lies in the gospel. Your hope lies in the church.
Yeah.
Keep that focus.
Yeah.
Again, so that I don't slip into the place where I start thinking about the nation as God's vehicle.
Yeah.
Because if I do that, then I've lost the prophetic voice to speak the truth to that nation when it needs to hear that truth.
Yeah.
What is the Old Testament theologian Walter Brueggemann calls it the royal consciousness.
Yes.
That if we embrace the royal consciousness, if we allow that to kind of seep in,
Yeah.
then the prophetic voice is muted.
That's right.
And so for me, yeah, it's very personal, in part, but again, not because I think like a kind of an us and them, because I recognize in myself the draw of that of that beautiful vision of what the American nation could be.
Yeah.
And the tendency then, when I hear a voice that's articulating that, to think, that's the voice of God, right?
Yeah.
And to remember, it's like, no, it's not.
Right.
It's not.
Yeah.
So it's quite personal.
I know it's personal for a lot of folks that might be listening. We are in this point in time in our nation where it's hard to talk across differences. And I know that in families, depending on who you voted for, you're either friends with that family member or you're not, or you kind of haven't talked to them for years, right? So it is personal, and the idea that faith has a layer in that dynamic and separates us is personal. And I know I have felt it just being a pastor and loving my congregation and loving the people that I preach to every week, and not wanting to say some of the prophetic things that we would want to say. And I really loved it when you had said earlier that the prophetic voice has been muted, and that's a sad scenario, because God is always trying to help us be better.
Right. And can I hope this isn't too much of a digression here, but one of the things that is part of the American experience is that oftentimes the call, when there's a call for reform in America, it is oftentimes a call to be more American.
Yeah.
Right? What we need to do, if we're going to see America flourish, we need to be more American. Mm-hmm. And that, of course, depends on how you define American.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
This goes so deep in our cultural history.
Yeah.
But one of the things that does is it pushes us back into the past. And one of the things that studying the prophets helped me to see is that the prophet's message is not to go back to the past. The prophet's message is God wants to do a new thing.
Yeah.
Where the American reform movements so much are oftentimes is like,
exactly,
we need to recover something about being American that we've lost.
Yeah.
And then we'll be okay. Mm-hmm. Where the prophetic message is much more, God wants to do a new thing. Yeah. And we may not know what that is.
Yeah.
And so we'd better be paying attention.
Yes.
To what that is.
Oh, yeah.
So that to me, that's part of the muting of that prophetic voice, is that the American tradition has so frequently been, we're Americans, and then these other folks who are un-American. Mm-hmm. And what we need to do is correct those un-American folks so we can all be American.
Right.
And those terms are so hard to define.
Earlier in the conversation, you had talked about the asking people whether or not they can be folded into the American experience, and with the kind of tension in the air that we feel with folks who are different in theological beliefs. I wondered if you think it might ever get to the point where people who are Christian but not that kind of Christian would be considered not able to be folded into the American experience.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
We certainly have had moments in our history where this has been the case.
Yeah.
You could go back to the American Revolution, where Quakers in Philadelphia, who were simply saying, we are pacifists.
Right.
We are not loyalists. We are not revolutionaries. We're refusing to take part in this.
Yeah.
Were arrested.
Wow.
Because they were not sufficiently revolutionary. Mm-hmm. Their objection to war was interpreted as loyalty to Britain.
Yeah.
and they were arrested.
Wow.
Okay, so and
Sure.
you could certainly push that forward to any times when America has gone to war, and we've had Christian brothers and sisters who have said, "I'm a conscientious objector. I will
Yeah.
not." Their patriotism has certainly been called into question
Yeah.
by some of their brothers and sisters in
Yeah.
Christ.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to think that we couldn't get to that point again
Right.
would be to deny our national history, which shows us that we've been there before.
That's right.
We've
That's
been there
right.
before.
I never even considered the proclamation of being a pacifist as being something that would not be honored.
Well, yeah, it was not honored by the revolutionaries
Yeah.
in
Wow.
1776. I
Wow.
think we could also look at what happened when people who understood themselves to be Christians enslaved other human beings,
Right.
and others said, "No, you can't be Christian and do that."
That's right. That's right.
And then their response was, "You can't be Christian and engage in the violence of the abolitionist movement." So again,
Right.
we've been there
Right.
before.
Right.
We've
Right.
certainly been there before.
That's what I find to be so difficult. Fighting for a different kind of faith without using the same kind of techniques that others might use. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder about the idea that we can be Christian in America and say that the ends justify the means.
Right.
That I can somehow, because I want this, what I perceive to be a Christian end, I can engage in behavior that does not at all look like the behavior that
Right.
Jesus taught.
Right. Right.
That troubles me.
Yeah.
That troubles me because it seems
Yeah.
then that I'm making, again, the end, which is, and if that end is some political national goal,
Right.
or some aspect of American identity that I want people to embrace, and I'm willing to coerce,
Yeah.
use violence
Yeah.
to achieve that end, I think we're losing our discipleship to Jesus at
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. And that has been the pivotal motion pivotal point that really convicted me to be a little bit more vocal about what we see happening and how it is a faith and it is a political situation. Yeah. So you talked about just being very well aware when you walk into a worship space. Has this knowledge affected your Christian faith in other ways? You talked about the temptation to do that, but what about positive ways?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think it's freed me to embrace a level of patriotism that allows me to celebrate the nation while keeping it in its place. And again, I'll come back to Richard John Newhouse, that great definition of his distinction between the sacred and the secular, that there are secular things that are really good.
Yeah.
They're just for the time being. They're just good for the time being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're not, we don't project them into the coming kingdom and think that we're going to need them in that situation.
Yeah.
But in this moment, that's a really good thing.
Yeah.
And to have the freedom to celebrate the secular when it's good, when it leads to human flourishing,
Right.
when it enhances the functioning of our society in good ways. You know, that politics is about kind of free individuals. Ideally, politics is about free individuals coming together and talking about what is best for all of us.
Right.
What is best for, and so it's fundamentally rooted in compromise, which again is, I don't know, trying to recognize when I'm doing political work where I can compromise with people who do not think the way I think or don't have the goals of the coming kingdom that I have.
Right.
And when I need to let them know, it's like, that's not the highest good that I'm interested in, but it is a temporal good.
Right.
And we can. It's better than what we have right now.
Yeah.
And so let's make it better than what we have right now.
Yeah.
Even though we know this is not the ultimate, that we're not going to achieve the ultimate good.
Right.
Through our political work.
Right.
If we can free ourselves up from that, so that like my politics is not going to usher in God's kingdom.
Right.
Then it frees me up to think, but my politics can make things a little bit better.
Right.
But that means I have to listen to my fellow citizens, have to compromise, we have to think what's possible at the moment. It just seems like a healthier way of expressing my love of neighbor.
Absolutely.
By being willing to work alongside them, even when our ultimate goals are not the same, perhaps.
Yeah.
Our ultimate vision of the good is not the same.
Right. Right. You have given us so much to think about. And such good good framework, good quotes. This has been such a treat, and I'm grateful to have had this experience, this conversation. I know there's so much more we could be saying, and I'm hoping that everybody who's been listening and watching feels the same way. So, but I have to ask, what do you think you want people to take away from this? If there's only one thing, what would that be?
Well, okay, but before I say that, let me just say I'm so thankful to have pastors who are welcoming of this conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
Because that's life-giving for me.
Good.
The takeaway, I hope, one of the best compliments I ever got from a student, years after she graduated, something had happened. I think it was a police-involved shooting of a black American, an unarmed black man. And she wrote to me and said, the reading we did together gave me a deeper way of thinking about what I'm reading in the news.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Not that it told her what to think, how to think about it, what the answers were, but it gave her a deeper way of thinking about it. So that's always my goal.
That's right.
With talking to people about American history, about American culture, is to try to use the reading I've done to try to give them a richer way of thinking about the issues that we all face.
Yeah.
I'm much more comfortable doing that than trying to think that I've got the answers for everybody.
Absolutely.
I do not have the answers for everybody.
Yeah.
And it's also, I guess, an acknowledgement that I'm not always sure that I even understand what I'm looking at, and that I'm understanding it well enough to talk to other people about. But I'm hoping that together we can enrich the conversation by putting it in some context.
That's my hope too.
Yeah.
That's my hope too. Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thanks so much for listening and for being part of this study. And if you have any questions that linger in your mind around this topic, I know we've only just skimmed the surface. We would love to hear from you. So please send us an email. If you're a Patreon member, I encourage you to put your question in that chat box. If you are not a member, I encourage you to go to our site and see what we have there. We have our regular podcast of Perspectives is there. It is a way for us to have conversations with folks who might not be near us and cannot be in person, a private conversation. So I invite you to consider joining Patreon as well. We will continue this conversation and enjoy where it goes in trust and in faith.
Yes.
Thanks, Karl.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. This is a production of First United Methodist Church of San Diego. To learn more about our events and ministries and to access additional learning resources, visit fumcsd.org.